Global. Andrew is joining us from Denver. And Jack Chan, who's a senior consultant with Caron Business Solutions. And Jack is also in Vancouver. So really quickly, I'll just go through a pretty straightforward agenda. After my introduction, Andrew is going to talk about RPM Global's products and services for the mining industry and how those products integrate with our solution, which is Sage X3. Jack is then going to talk about why we think Sage X3 is a great solution for mining companies and some reasons for you to consider it. And then we'll take questions. So just a little bit about Caron. We've been in business for over 21 years, and during that time, we've built up a very good practice of mining clients, primarily using Sage's accounting products. We now have an office in Lima, Peru, and a team in Brazil. And these moves have been undertaken because we want to extend our support for our mining clients to not just the headquarters or the main offices of the companies, but also their operations. And those operations are very, very often in South America. So we're very happy to have teams there. Because of all of that, we've created Caron Mining Solutions powered by Sage X3. We're very well supported in our efforts through Sage North America, through Sage in LATAM, and also because Sage is an international company, we have support in any country that we choose to operate. So with our products, our training, and the support of partners like Sage and RPM Global, we provide a complete solutions to our mining clients. So enough about us. Without further ado, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Andrew.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, so my name is Andrew Johnson, as Paul mentioned. I'm based out of Denver, Colorado. Just a little bit about my background. Mechanical engineer by training, and I spent most of my career in the mining and heavy industry field. So I started off about 7 years out in the mines in Nevada, and then I moved into a more global role, working with the mines across the globe. Did that for about 3 years. Then I left and did some asset management and maintenance consulting, again within other mining operations, oil sands, coal, things of that nature, as well as some of the other industries. And then joined RPM a couple of years ago on their AMT product. I was a former client using it day to day when I was working at the mines, and now I'm on the other side of the fence helping prospective clients understand the power that AMT has. So today we're going to be talking about AMT. It's a software that was originally developed by an Australian company a little over 20 years ago or so. 25 years ago, designed specifically to help a Caterpillar dealer in Indonesia actually better understand how they could manage a maintenance and repair contract. So there's a CAT dealer that was trying to figure out, how do I be more effective and smarter with how I'm producing bids to my client. In order to do that, I need to have a better understanding as far as where the costs are going and what they're going to be spending. So it was developed for that scenario specifically to help manage maintenance and project future costs and things of that nature. That's its origin. So since then, it's grown and we've added quite a bit of additional functionality to it. And between the actual OEMs themselves and the owner-operator mines that are using our product, we estimate there's at least 70% of the global large mining fleet that have equipment that is either managed or tracked within AMT. Like I said, there's some 500 plus some sites across the globe that are using AMT. Again, Caterpillar has their version of it that was originally developed for them. It's called AMTC. Komatsu has a version of AMT as well, and Hitachi do. So between the three major mining producers and the actual mining clients themselves, AMT really is becoming the industry standard across the globe to track and manage your large equipment. So when we look at AMT, again, originally started off just to help with the maintenance repair contracts, but like I said, since then it's grown significantly. So now it is it's a complete asset management solution. So we have many clients that'll use it just to capitalize on some of the more strategic predictive things. But more and more, we're starting to see clients that actually want to do everything within AMT. So using AMT as the CMMS itself to manage all the work, do all their planning, all their condition monitoring, and looking at their components and doing all that within AMT, because then that way they can stay within one system and they don't have to jump back and forth. So AMT has that full work management suite of tools, as well as, like I said, having all those additional functionality, which we're going to talk to in a little bit, that separates AMT from a typical CMMS and separates it within the industry to adding the most value to the clients. So let's look at a typical footprint of what AMT looks like within the Sage deployment. So on the enterprise level, we have Sage that's going to handle all the asset ledger. So the equipment itself will get registered within Sage. Sage takes care of the procurement and inventory, so all the parts and ordering all happens within there. They've got the human resources side of it, all the costing and the chart of accounts, that all gets done within there. They are the system of record for all the financial side of things. And then AMT sits on top of that to handle the work management side of things. So the asset register is going to come across from Sage. There'll be a link that brings that information in. We then define the strategies themselves within AMT. So you're setting up, what are my PM routines? What are my component changeouts? What are the additional tasks that need to be performed on this asset? How often, and what are they going to cost me? We can then start to do some of the long-term planning and short-term planning. Make sure that we, have the right date and time for when we're going to be doing this stuff. Do we have the right parts, all the right tooling and miscellaneous items that are going to be needed to doing these jobs? We then execute these work orders, and we finalize those work by adding additional either failure comments or codifications for that, as well as any final comments to keep it for historical purposes. And we allow that to, like I said, manage the full work orders. We can track downtime within AMT as well, so we can start to get our asset metrics and reporting out things like availability, use of availability, mean time between failure, things of that nature. Identify warranty. When you're doing that work, you'll be able to see whether or not this should be a warranty flag or not. And then tracking some of the inspections and doing it in a more electronic fashion, and looking at your asset health overall. On top of that, we have the decision support layer. So the work management really handles the day-to-day, and then the decision support sits on top of that for more of the analytical and future modeling and reporting capabilities. So we have a lifecycle management engine that's running. We'll talk a little bit about that here in just a second. That provides the brains and the backbone for a lot of these other processes, such as benchmarking your equipment to see where the bad actors are, being able to keep track of any product problems that you may have. So if you're seeing a bunch of head gasket failures, or you're seeing certain brackets on a type of machine that's failing, AMT has a place where you can just track that information and run quick reports to let OEM know how much downtime and how much cost you've got associated with that product problem. Performance analytics, there's a multitude suite of reports. I think within AMT there's over 320 some odd reports that are just canned within AMT. Strategy optimization, so do we have the right strategies? And then there are direct equipment cost budgeting and modeling, so being able to actually build up that future forecast and model out some different scenarios to see exactly what is the most economical way to do things. And on top of that, we have the management reporting layer. So again, we have a full suite of lifecycle costing, performance reporting, and dashboards that are available for management and corporate levels as well, to keep an eye on things and make it easy. Let's talk a little bit about that dynamic lifecycle costing, or DLCC as we call it. That is the process of being able to forecast every maintenance event for an equipment to the end of its life, and doing that in real time. This is what actually enables you to create a live zero-based budget. Zero-based budgeting was a big buzzword term about 10 or 12 years ago, and AMT has been around since then, and one of the first programs that allowed companies to build up those zero-based budget. And really, beyond just building a zero-based budget, it is a true live zero-based budget. So let's show you a little bit of examples for us what that looks like. Let's say, for example, we purchase an asset. We assume this asset's going to run roughly 60,000 engine hours, and we're going to either retire it or sell it. And when we buy that asset, we have of course, we have the upfront capital cost to purchase it. But then we also want to take into consideration what the lifecycle costs are. So for a single component, let's assume this is maybe an engine. When we buy the asset, we're assuming that engine, the OEM tells us that it's going to last for 20,000 hours, and it costs $100,000. So at 20,000 hours, we're going to replace that engine. We're going to spend $100,000 to do it, and then we're going to go another 20,000 hours, and then the engine's need replaced again, so we'll then incur another $100,000. So we anticipate the life cycle cost for this one component example is going to be about $200,000 over the life of the asset. What happens in reality is we go along, and the first time we do it, we have to replace it a little bit earlier than the 20,000, which is not uncommon than what the OEM tells us. So we do that job, but when we purchase the asset, or the component, I should say, it only costs us $90,000. So when you look at where we're at on this little green line compared to our orange line right here, we're doing pretty good. We're actually under budget. So my management's happy with me from the maintenance manager. So it's all good right there. We go along, and then another 15,000 hours later, we have to do another engine. So now over in this period of time, I've now gone above my budget. So now I'm a little bit in trouble, and people are starting to ask some questions. But overall, we're still tracking where we're going to be for the total life of the asset. But the reality is we now have to do this third component change out, because again, we want to get to that 60,000 hours when we replace the asset. And so at the end of the life, we've actually 60,000 hours, we had to do 3 change outs versus the 2, and we've overspent our budget by about $70,000. So this is what the life cycle costing looks like. And the power from AMT is that we're dynamically tracking thousands of those green and orange lines in real time and being able to show where you're at against those 2 lines. So this is immensely powerful and important to truly understand what's happening within your fleet, as well as how to make adjustments sooner rather than later. As the old adage goes, when they were going to the moon, they were off track more time than they were on track. And the only way they were able to get there is by constantly making course corrections along the way. So if you don't have this type of information to make those course corrections, you'll quickly get out of sync with where you thought you were going, and you'll look back at the end of the year and realize that you've had some pretty major overages and have been difficult to understand why. So with the dynamic lifecycle costing process, it allows you, like I said, to see your future projections, but it's also taking into account your actuals. So each time an actual job is performed, we're tracking those actual costs, and so we can compare our historical actuals, compare that to what we think we're going to be doing and our forecast, and keep that up to date in real time. And this is happening not only just for costs, but you can do that for looking at your duration, so projecting out your future downtimes to give operations a heads up. Are we going to be able to have the hours needed to meet the production schedule? If not, why not? What can we do? As well as your labor, being able to see the spikes that are coming in labor and help making sure you have the right people at the right time to do what's needed, and projecting out those components as well. So all these type of proactive decision making are reliant upon that DLCC engine. So let's talk a little bit about just strategy optimization for a second, and some of the other important things that come from there. So we look at the strategy optimization. If I have a PM that's set for maybe it's 250 hours, maybe it's 400 hours, how do I know that that is the right time frame and I'm getting the most out of it? If I've got a component change out that, again, if I say it's 18,000 hours, I want to perform this task, and I think it's going to cost me $250,000, and X amount of labor and X amount of downtime, how do I know that is the correct assumption? So when I'm building my budget, I'm putting the right things in there. In order to do that, you have to be able to take a look at your actuals and compare it to what your assumptions are. So AMT allows you to do that in a numerous ways, from graphical charts to an interactive table that allows you to see all your different strategies, compare their actual occurrences to where they're at now, and identify what those overages are going to be. Economic life determination. When is the right time to sell an asset? Do you just go to that, like we did in our previous example, do we just run to 60,000 hours and say, yep, now we're gonna sell it? Or maybe you want to actually get another 20, 30,000 hours out of it. If you don't know where all the components are at on that asset, it's very difficult to make the correct economic decision for when to retire and purchase a new asset. So AMT allows you to see at any given point in time how much value is left in each component, summarizing all that up to show you the value that's left in that asset, and say you should retire this when this line gets to its lowest point, meaning we've used the most of we've gotten the most out of our components, and now would be a good time to sell that asset. Or potentially extending it further. Component evaluations, so being able to see exactly where our components are falling and understanding where that's going to be hitting within our schedule is a huge matter to track and manage throughout the quarterly and annual budget within a maintenance department. Resource forecasting. So while you have a certain amount of labor pool that's going to manage your day-to-day activity, there's going to be times where there's going to be a fleet of assets that all need a major component rebuilt. And if you don't know when that peak time's coming, it's going to be difficult to try to meet that demand. So being able to see when that's coming out in the future allows you to work with either an outside vendor or in other areas to get additional labor and make sure that they're available for that 3 to 6 month period where you know you're going to have that peak demand, that you're going to need additional hands to help make sure you're swapping things out and getting it changed on time. Forecasting and budgeting. Again, that was one of the original purposes for AMT. Rather than spending multiple weeks and days trying to build Excel models or whatnot, a forecast and budget with AMT, relying on that dynamic lifecycle costing engine, is able to spit out those forecasts and budgets pretty easily. It's just a snapshot in time. And being able to manage your asset risks. So knowing not only what's out there as a potential that could fail early and cause you to go over budget, but also helping identify potential opportunities where you can actually push some things out a little bit further into a different financial period to help you save some money this period, but while still doing the right thing for the asset. So helping you actually manage that risk, not only at a component asset level, but from an entire fleet and a department level. Again, hugely dependent on being able to have that dynamic lifecycle costing engine in the background, spitting out those different scenarios for you. So these are some of the reasons why AMT has become the industry standard. Like I said, it is that proactive system. You know, there's really nothing else on the market that stays up to date and produces that forward-looking prediction for you. Or the biggest competitor in the AMT world is really Excel. Most places that we talk to have some sort of Excel-based tool that can do some of this type of stuff, but AMT is the first commercial off-the-shelf product that is able to do this and do it efficiently in real time. Having that forecasting accuracy, again, that's one of the huge ones. Be able to know that when I produce a budget, it's not just last year plus 5% or an average of the last 5 years plus or minus 2%, right? That's no good way to produce a financial budget, especially when we talk about most of our clients have maintenance budgets that are in the tens of millions of dollars. So being able to know that your forecast is accurate and is based off of real world assumptions goes a long way to making sure that when a maintenance department says that they need X amount of dollars, the mining manager is going to be able to ensure that they get that amount because they know it's based off of actual data and assumptions. Being able to have that one solution, again, like I said, now AMT being able to manage all of your work orders, do all your planning, as well as give you all the reporting and analytics that you need, as well as the financial budgeting side of things and financial cost reporting, really makes it a slick tool, because the less jumping from system to system, the easier it is for the maintenance and asset management professionals just to learn the things that they need to do and be able to take care of their task on a day-to-day basis without jumping around. A unique functionality, like I said, the lifecycle costing engine is unique within the marketplace. There's nothing else out there that has that to date. And by being able to offload all the core ERP stuff, it really gives the Sage X3, AMT is able to leverage that master data that way. Sage can handle all the cost of the chart accounts, the heavy reporting there, and AMT takes care of just the main asset management side of things. Here's some of the real world examples of as far as where we see AMT adding value. So when you look at the maintenance management having the visibility to the exact number, the price, and the timing of their major minor components, as well as spare parts, that's a huge tool to put in the pocket to be able to understand what that demand curve looks like. There's a lot of things that fall from that, from managing a department and a fleet of assets. Being able to decrease the amount of emergency freight charges and not having to pay for those last minute type of expenses. So because AMT is being able to forecast that stuff out there, it's able to reduce the number of stockouts that are seen and having to emergency freight. Now, things are always going to fail in the field, but if you know that you're coming close to that equipment end life, AMT can say, here's sort of roughly the time frame that you should be trying to change it on a plan basis, but know that there's a potential risk of failure. So make sure you have stuff on hand. So that's being able to have that helps reduce not only the cost, but the downtime as well. Having more control over the component purchasing process. So when you know what you need, when you need it, and you're not just going off of some basic historical reports, you're able to actually get with OEMs and actually do some negotiation. So in fact, Caterpillar, if they have a client that's using AMT to forecast their components, that client will get preferential first right of refusal basically for those components, versus a client that just doesn't use AMT and is just saying, hey, I think I'm going to need X amount of these type of components next year. If they're in high demand, then the client that's using AMT to produce that will get preference over that, and allows you to negotiate your price, because if you can show over the next 12 to 18 months or 5 years how many of these you're going to be buying, it gives you that more power to actually negotiate the actual price on that. And the ability to see where your maintenance strategy is going off course and being able to course correct based off of some KPIs. The sooner you react in a lot of these situations, the more value there is on the table. So some of the typical improvements we'll see from AMT, reduction in maintenance cost. Like I said, if you're starting to do things on a more planned basis, it's not unheard of to see your maintenance costs reduced by 5 to 10%. That's just from the nature of forecasting and planning better and being able to plan for those type of events. Improving your equipment availability. Again, the less time you're spent in an emergency situation where we're trying to do stuff, the better your availability is going to be. AMT also walks you through the process to develop additional strategies and build up your planned maintenance over time, so that increase of planned work will also help to increase your availability. Warranty, increasing your warranty recovery. So a lot of folks don't actually track their warranty, and it's just happenstance if the guy who did that job the second time knows that he only did it 6 months ago. But AMT can actually flag that stuff and raise that to you, so you can actually increase your warranty recovery a significant amount. Decrease in new equipment purchases. Like I said, being able to know the right timing for when you should replace assets. That's a very common number, 3 to 5% reduction there. And having your long-term forecast components replaced, having a 100% accuracy of when you know that's going to be, that's a significant increase for most clients that we see. Why do people choose AMT? It's proactive. Like I said, it is forward-looking. It's live. It stays up to date. Each time you close a work order, it will keep track of that and update things. It has that accuracy because it's built off of those foundational assumptions within the strategies. So you know that your forecast is going to be correct because it is live and it's accurate. Having that one solution where you can handle all the work orders, all your reporting, all your analytics, all your budgeting in one place makes it simple and easy to use and train new people. That unique functionality with the dynamic lifecycle costing, and being able to leverage the ERP from Sage X3 from this instance to really capitalize on that data and keep it in sync, allows the sites and to do what they need to do, as well as giving the central office the reporting and tracking that they need as well. And ultimately, it's user friendly. It's much easier to use than your typical CMMS that you see out there, and it keeps everything in one place for everybody. So that's just a little bit about AMT. So with that, I'm going to pass it back over to you.
All right, it's Jack here. I'm going to take over the presentation. So as Paul mentioned, I'm going to spend a few minutes here talking about 5 reasons why we think Sage X3 is going to give you additional benefits over your current system. And I'll start with PowerPoint slides, and I'll actually go into a demo of the system after that. So a powerful feature in Sage X3 is analytical accounting or dimension. Dimensions allows you to tag each transaction with specific codes, and it can be used for financial and statistical purposes. By using dimensions, you can greatly simplify your chart of accounts. The standard screen layout in X3 reduces the learning curve for all users. Shown here is a supplier screen as well as the GL account screen in X3 stacked on top of each other. If you remove the screen labels, the 2 screens look identical. This is part of the reasons why users learn X3 quickly. I'm going to go into the layout and navigation in details during the demo. With regards to the accounting structure, in X3, you have the ability to set up a commonized account core model. Not only does this allow you to set up multi-companies quickly by reusing the same chart of accounts, but the built-in feature functionality allows you to report on multi-ledger and currencies. We will talk about the account core model during the demo. Next, we talk about reporting. Your ERP is never complete without a great reporting tool. In X3, most of the standard reports are written in Crystal Reports. This is an industry standard reporting tool. Many reports come standard out of the box, can be customized to your requirements. During the demo, I will also show you other types of reporting tools, including dashboarding using SEI, mobile and tablet interfaces. On the road and looking for quick information in the system, tablet and mobile pages come standard out of the box, so you can get information you want whenever and wherever you are. Now, without further ado, I'm going to go through switch over my screen to the live demo of the system. So here we have, this is the standard X3 login screen. So one of the major differences between X3 and other traditional applications is the ability to attach dimensions to your GL accounts. In a traditional accounting structure, every GL account must be defined explicitly. Using an example, let's say you have an account marketing expense. You also have 3 segments defined: market area, sales region, and product category. And let's suppose for each segment there are up to 5 values. That alone can potentially add up to 125 different combinations to your chart of accounts. Now compare that to Sage X3. You define the natural account only. The other segments can be set up as dimensions. Using the same example, there would be 1 marketing expense account in the system, regardless of how many market areas, sales regions, or product categories you have. This allows you to simplify your chart of account and minimize the amount of effort spent on maintenance. I'm going to bring up the supplier screen. What you're seeing here is the standard X3 supplier screen. And like most of the screens involving master data in X3, you can break this into 3 sections. On the left side here, you have different drawers. Drawers allow you to retrieve information relevant to the screen based on a predefined filter. In this example, we have a default drawer showing all suppliers. There is also another drawer down below labeled last read. It shows you a list of the last 10 suppliers that you've accessed for this user. Within each drawer is a customizable list containing information pertaining to the screen. Each column is searchable and sortable. For instance, I would like to search for a supplier with the name electronics in it. Simply go to the column containing company name. I have different operators available. All contains all the way to not equal to. So in this case, let me go ahead and say contains and type in the first 3 letters electronics and simply use enter or tab key and it'll return results right away. I'm going to go ahead and clear this filter. You can do this on any of the columns available. You can also click on the heading to sort in ascending and descending order. The middle section occupies most of the screen space. This is the area for transacting with the program. This section of the screen is customizable by removing or reordering how the fields appear. And then best of all, it does not require any custom programming. The example that you're seeing right now, this is the default screen containing all the fields. For example here, under the identity section, I have information related to site tax ID and EU VAT number. For the purpose of demo, I'm going to hide these fields for you, show you what it looks like. I've done that the work ahead of time, so I'm going to go ahead and switch my profile from the standard Sage profile to the supplier profile. And as you can see, the fields on the right underneath the identity section is no longer showing. I did this ahead of time. Really took me all of 5 minutes to do without programming and require. And lastly, on this screen here, we have the right section called CRUD, create, record, update, and delete. In addition to these functionalities, standard toolbar allows you to attach documents, add a rich text comment to a specific record, or export the information to Excel. In this case, you can see there's a red dot underneath the comments icon. This is an indication that there is a record-specific comment. I simply click on the icon and it will have a pop-up window showing the comments that I put in. So I mentioned one of the key factors that X3 stand out amongst other applications It's its accounting structure, and specifically the account core model. In the account core model, you can define up to 10 ledgers to use for a single company. Each ledger can reference a different chart of account and currency. As shown here, the NA2 account core model, multi-ledger model, there are 4 ledgers defined. The first ledger, or the legal ledger, is chart of account NAS with a reporting currency of US dollar. This is the company's default reporting ledger. With the other ledgers available, we can configure it for other reporting needs. For example, Ledger 4 or Group can be used for consolidation reporting with other companies within X3. I also want to draw your attention to Ledger 5. Ledger 5 is defined as an auto ledger with reference to the same NAS ledger, but reporting in Canadian dollar. That means any company using this model can report in both US dollar and Canadian dollar using the same chart of account, and because it is an auto ledger, there is no need for double entries. The system automatically converts each transaction from US dollar to Canadian dollar based on the daily exchange rate. As mentioned previously, X3 uses crystal reports for most of the standard reports. Here, as shown, is a list of all the reports within X3 listed alphabetically. You can also see the reports grouped by their function, such as sales, stock, or financials. X3 is also highly integrated with Microsoft Office. One way of seeing this in action is using the built-in inquiries. Looking at the reporting visual process flow, under standard inquiries, can be exported to Excel. Here is an example of a standard inquiry in X3. In this case, this is the sales order inquiry. We have filtering options up above, allowing you to filter by company, site, customer, or date. For example, I would like to see a list of orders for company NA10 for the last quarter of 2019. After you enter in your filtering values, you simply click search to return the results. Below are the results listed by orders, which allows you to see additional information. You can also export this list to Microsoft Excel for further analysis. If you would like to see additional information here on the specific order, you can drill in by using the action icon. I can drill into the specific sales order or the sales journal in this case. In terms of BI reporting, we recommend using Sage Enterprise Intelligence, or SEI. SEI is a standard reporting tool specifically designed for X3. We recommend SEI for its ease of use and tight integration with X3. Here you will see some standard reports from SEI incorporated into X3 directly. Specifically, we have the inventory dashboard, as well as an accounts payable dashboard. Let's spend a few moments looking at the AP dashboard. First of all, I'm going to maximize my screen size to load up to maximize the report. In this dashboard, it's a collection of 6 individual reports related to accounts payable, all connected within a dashboard view. I have filtering options up above, allowing me to define my report with more filters, with additional filters, such as year, month, supplier, all the way to legislation. For example, I would like to focus in on year 2020. As you can see, as soon as I update my filter here, the reports, all of the reports here, update automatically in real time. If I would like to focus on this section of the report, the 61 to 90 days overdue, I can simply add that to my filter by clicking on the area within the report, and the corresponding reports in the dashboard updates accordingly. So I can see that with within my overdue aging report, 21 million is classified as 61 to 90 days overdue. And specifically, most of that relates to this one supplier. Go back to my Sage desktop here, right? And finally, I want to show you the mobile page that comes standard in X3. This is what it would look like if you run X3 on your mobile application. Suppose I'm on the road and looking to get more information on customer international distributors. I can go into this tile, My Customers dashboard. Under Customer List, type in international and click on the Finder or magnifying glass. It returns two results here. I'm going to go ahead and click on this international distributors with customer code NA001. I now see a dashboard of information for this specific customer, ranging from contact information all the way to credit levels, as well as any specific company-specific information. And this concludes my part of the presentation.
So the integration between Sage and AMT, the typical integration that we see between Sage and AMT, the first one is the assets. So when the assets are registered with Sage, once it's registered within there, it'll flow over to AMT, so that'll come across. Then when we talk about the parts, so from within AMT, if I'm doing some planning, the first thing that I want to do is check and see like what parts are available. So there's a lookup, so it'll reference the inventory within Sage and see what parts are available. And then when it comes time to actually doing some more of the parts planning, if there's some direct charge items or some non-stock items that I need, AMT will send a requisition to Sage. Sage will then return back the purchase order and the status of where those parts are. So within AMT, you can see what that PO number is, as well as whether the parts have arrived or on order or where they're at. And then the actual work order details come back from a financial side of things. So when that work gets completed, we want to make sure that the costs, which are kept within Sage, they come back in AMT. So AMT is reflective one-to-one with what's in Sage. And then the last item that we see is the general ledger. So oftentimes there'll be additional either credits or accruals or direct charge things that go directly to a cost center or expense account that don't come from a work order. So we want those costs as well to flow into AMT, so that again AMT stays up to date one-to-one, and the actual cost reporting capability that AMT can be used to as accurately to represent what's happening within the business as a whole. So those are the typical integrations that we typically see.
Great, thanks, Andrew. Thank everybody very much for attending. If you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to email directly to us.